Podcast 261, The Prophetic Rejection Paradox. In Matthew 13:57, copyright 2026, ISBN 9789769782655. Welcome, listeners, to another episode, The Prophetic Rejection Paradox. In Matthew 13:57, copyright 2026, where we explore the intersections of psychology, cultural theory, and communication in our everyday lives. I am your host, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D., from the beautiful island of Barbados, and today we are going to delve into a profound paradox rooted in ancient wisdom that resonates deeply in the modern world. The rejection of prophets, particularly as described in Matthew 13:57, and its connection to human psychology. In this episode, we will explore the concept of familiarity, breeding contempt, a powerful psychological idea, and how it aligns with the notion of honor in human communities. As we unpack this conversation and its implications, we will reflect on how cognitive theories like the mere exposure effect n.wikipedia.org, mere exposure effect, and cognitive dissidence, simplypsychology.org, might help explain the rejection of those closest to us, especially when they exhibit extraordinary qualities. Now that I have established context, let's start with the core of this paradox, Matthew 13:57, where Jesus states, I quote, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home." End quote. This biblical passage highlights an enduring aspect of human psychology, the tendency to reject or overlook the wisdom and growth of those we are most familiar with. Jesus was a revered teacher and healer, yet in his hometown of Nazareth, he faced rejection, not because of his wisdom or miraculous acts, but because of the familiarity his neighbors had with his humble beginnings. The paradox here is striking. Despite the people of Nazareth being amazed by his wisdom and the miracles he performed, they could not accept him as a prophet because of his ordinary background. Somewhere in your consciousness, you may ask the question, why does this happen? Because it's all about the psychological and social dynamics at play. This phenomenon is often summed up by the phrase, I quote, "Familiarity breeds contempt," end quote, Harvard Business School. When we are intimately acquainted with someone, we may find it difficult to recognize their potential or growth. Instead, we may focus on their flaws or view them through the lens of their past. This was the case for the people of Nazareth. They could not accept the idea that someone they had known as the local carpenter's son could possess divine wisdom or be a prophet. They were unable to see him beyond the context of their shared history and their cultural lens. Exceptionalfeatures.com. Let's turn to cognitive dissonance theory by Leon Festinger, 1957, which sheds light on why this happens. According to this theory, when we encounter new information that contradicts our existing beliefs or perceptions, it creates psychological discomfort, a state known as cognitive dissonance. In the case of Jesus, the people of Nazareth were faced with dissonance between their perceptions of him as a common man and the extraordinary claims he was making. This discomfort likely led them to reject his message rather than embrace it. Additionally, the mere exposure effect, a psychological phenomenon identified by Zenock, 1968, helps explain why the people of Nazareth may have been less likely to appreciate Jesus' authority. The mere exposure effect suggests that repeated exposure to something or someone diminishes our emotional response to it. Growing up with Jesus as a local figure, they had become desensitized to his significance, making it harder for them to recognize his true worth. Moreover, in ancient Jewish society, honor was associated with divine favor, and prophets were often expected to come from esteemed families or backgrounds. Jesus' humble upbringing and ordinary familiar life didn't fit the established expectations of what a prophet should be. This is a classic example of how social expectations and preconceived notions about status can distort our ability to recognize authentic authority. As Wright 1996 explains, the people of Nazareth struggle to reconcile Jesus' earthly life with their expectation of divine leaders, thus failing to honor him as a prophet. This brings us to an important psychological concept, the outsider effect. Turner, 1969. We are more likely to accept someone as an authority figure if they come from outside our immediate circle. Someone whose unfamiliarity grants them credibility. In contrast, those we know too well may be unfairly dismissed or underappreciated simply because we have no room to frame them or something greater than their past selves. Now, let's zoom out with our lens and examine how this idea manifests in modern society. Familiarity breeds contempt isn't just a biblical or historical concept. It's something we experience in our day-to-day lives. Whether it's dismissing advice from a familiar member, undermining a colleague's achievements, or overlooking local talent in favor of outside experts. We continue to struggle with this paradox. Why do we value the opinions and expertise of outsiders over those within our own communities? Why is it easier to recognize wisdom in someone from afar than it is to see it in those close to us? After much research and analysis, the answer, I believe, lies in human psychology and cultural context. As Bandura 1986 and Granger 2009 discuss our social environment and the values we hold shape how we interpret others. When we interact with someone who is familiar to us, we are often trapped in their past identity, unable to see their potential for change or greatness. This can be further exacerbated by jealousy, social comparison, or even fear of their growth surpassing our own. Matthew 13:57 invites us to challenge these biases. It's a reminder to stay open to the truth and wisdom, regardless of the source. As Jesus' experience in Nazareth illustrates, true honor isn't dependent on proximity or familiarity. It's about spiritual insight, recognition, and the ability to transcend societal expectation. The lesson here is not just about recognizing the prophet in our midst, it's also about recognizing the potential within ourselves and others. Just because someone is close to us doesn't mean they can't offer profound truths. In fact, it may be precisely because they are close to us that they have insights into our lives that can transform us. As we close, I encourage you to reflect on the people in your life, those you've known for years. Are you able to see them for their potential, or are you still seeing them through the lens of the past? And what about yourselves? Do you allow your growth and wisdom to shine, or do you struggle with the familiar tendency to doubt your own potential because of where you come from? Even while Matthew 13:57 may seem like a metaphorical, proverbial, defensive, and diagnostic statement to certain scholars, and a statement about Jesus, yet it's actually a comment about us, how we view one another, and how we should respect the extraordinary, no matter how commonplace it may seem. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that this exploration has challenged some of your assumptions and deepened your understanding of human psychology, familiarity, and honor. I am Dr. William Anderson Giddens, D.D., and this has been Cognitive Factors Affecting the Prophetic Rejection Paradox, Human Psychology, Honor, and Familiarity in Matthew 13:57, copyright 2026. God bless.